welcome to Installing with the Manufacturer, a series of instructional video segments that will outline the basics of installing James Hardie products. This site is dedicated to educating and instructing you on the most innovative and up-to-date best practices for installing James Hardie products. James Hardie is the world leader in the manufacturing and development of fiber cement building products. We have produced an installation guide to help you with the installation of our products. Please be sure to download a copy prior to watching these instructional videos. There is a link provided on this site. In this segment, we will cover the basics of installing HardiePlank lap siding. To begin, HardiePlank siding requires a starter strip to be installed prior to installing the first course of siding. The starter strip is needed beneath the first course to ensure that the first course is set on the proper angle and to create a proper drip edge at the bottom of the siding. Starter strips are easily made by ripping 1 1/4 inch pieces of HardiePlank siding from full or partial planks. The bottom of the starter strip should be installed even with the bottom of the mud seal or the bottom edge of the sheathing. The strip must be installed over the weather-resistant barrier, but occasional gaps should be left in the starter strip to allow accumulated moisture behind the siding to drain away safely. The first course of HardiePlank siding is critical to the proper installation of the plank on the rest of the building. The first course should start at the lowest point of the house. Special attention should be made to ensure that it's straight and level. Attention should also be paid to staggering any butt joints in the planks so that the installation is attractive while making efficient use of material. Use a level, 4 feet or longer, or chalked level line to be sure that the first course is level. As installation continues up the wall, periodically check for level and straightness. Keep the bottom edge of the first course even with the bottom of the corner trim. It is a good practice to snap a chalk line every 3 to 5 courses to keep planks straight and level. Position the bottom edge of the first course of siding a minimum 1/4 inch below the edge of the starter strip. Run the siding to the Hardie trim board, leaving a 1/8 inch gap between the siding and trim. The bottom of the siding should be kept even with the bottom of the trim, or if desired, the trim may extend below the bottom of the siding. When installing the first course, make sure ground clearances are in accordance with James Hardie requirements and those of local codes. Now we're going to discuss nailing of HardiePlank. There are 2 nailing methods for installing HardiePlank. The first is the blind nail method, nailing through the top edge of the plank, and the second is face nailing, nailing through the overlap. Blind nailing is recommended for installing any type of HardiePlank lap siding, including Color Plus siding. With blind nailing, each course covers the fasteners on the course below, which provides a better looking installation. For blind nailing HardiePlank lap siding, James Hardie recommends placing fasteners 1 inch from the top edge of the plank. Additionally, fasteners should be placed no closer than 3/8 of an inch from the ends of the plank. Avoid placing fasteners near the top edge of the plank. This practice, called high nailing, may result in loose planks, unwanted gaps, or rattling. Pinning of butt joints with a finish nail may be done for aesthetic purposes only. A finish nail should be used in this instance and should be nailed flush to the surface, not countersunk. The fastener must also be fully corrosion resistant, galvanized, or stainless, and the fastener does not provide any structural support. Although blind nailing is recommended by James Hardie, face nailing may be required for certain installations, including installation in high wind areas, fastening into OSB or equivalent sheathing without penetrating a stud, or when dictated by specific building codes. Refer to installation instructions or the NER 405 evaluation report for proper fastener types and spacing requirements. We're now going to discuss the placement and treatment of butt joints. For walls longer than 12 feet, it will be necessary to join 2 or more pieces of siding, creating butt joints. These butt joints should be staggered to avoid noticeable patterns, which is determined by the placement of the first course. Butt joints between consecutive courses should be spaced apart by at least 2 stud bays for 16-inch on-center framing, or 1 bay for 24-inch on-center framing. While random placement of the planks is usually the most aesthetically pleasing, a progressive stagger pattern can make the job easier and faster without the pattern becoming too noticeable. With this strategy, the cutoff piece for one course becomes the starter piece for a course above, making efficient use of materials and ensuring that all butt joints land on studs. The pattern can be modified for different stud placement. Where butt joints are necessary, the recommended method for butting factory finish ends for all HardiePlank lap siding is moderate contact over a piece of joint flashing. However, this method is required for joining Color Plus lap siding products. Flashing behind butt joints provides an extra level of protection against the entry of water at the joint. James Hardie recommends 6-inch wide flashing that overlaps the course below by 1 inch. Some local building codes may require different size flashing. Joint flashing material must be durable, waterproof materials that do not react with cement products. Examples of suitable materials include finished coil stock and code-compliant water-resistive barriers. Other products may also be suitable. It is also a good practice to use materials that are closely matched in color to the siding that is being applied. We'll now discuss the placement and treatment of butt joints. Joints with HardiePlank lap siding should always land on a stud. Butt joints between studs are not recommended and should be avoided. Whenever possible, factory finished ends should be used at butt joints. Place cut ends where the siding meets a corner, door, window trim, or other break in the wall where the joint is to be caulked. If cut ends are used in a butt joint between planks, James Hardie recommends painting or priming the cut ends for prime products. For Color Plus products, use the color matched edge coater to finish the cut end. Remember that the use of caulk for Color Plus products is never recommended. To continue installing HardiePlank, once the initial course of siding is fastened to the wall, continue installing successive courses with full 12-foot pieces, following the staggered pattern as described earlier for longer walls, or until a window, door, or other opening interrupts the course. Notch planks is needed to fit around windows and doors. Again, be sure to paint or prime cut edges. Avoid placing butt joints directly above or below windows or doors. Separate the joint from the opening by at least 1 course of siding. Where butt joints land on a stud, make sure there is enough stud space for the plank on both sides of the joint to land properly on the stud. Pay special attention to windows, doors, and corners that have been trimmed before the siding is installed. In these places, add extra studs or framing as needed. If corners are trimmed with Hardie trim, 5/4 or 4/4 boards, it may be necessary to measure and cut the first pieces of siding to make sure the butt joints land on studs. For installing HardiePlank siding on gable walls or further questions, please refer to www.jameshardie.com. This concludes this installment of James Hardie's Installing with the Manufacturer Installing HardiePlank module. Please join us for the next installment. As always, please refer to www.jameshardie.com or your local installation specialist for any questions. Thanks, and see you next time.